Okay, so are you ready to dive into a world that feels like it's straight out of an Indiana Jones movie? We're talking about ancient wisdom, secret societies,
Mhm.
and knowledge that's been whispered about for centuries. You know, you've mentioned before how you're fascinated by the connections between different philosophies and belief systems, and we're using Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages as our guide to uncover those hidden links.
It's like we're going on an archaeological dig, but instead of digging up ruins, we're digging into layers of symbolism and secret traditions. Oh, and echoes of lost civilizations, too.
Exactly. And I think a great starting point for our exploration is the legend of Atlantis. Paul doesn't see Atlantis just as a sunken city, though. He presents it as this wellspring of ancient wisdom, like a source of knowledge that spread across the globe. It's possible this knowledge is even embedded in the myths and symbols we still see today. It's like solving a puzzle, but the pieces are continents.
And you know, what's really interesting is that even if Atlantis is metaphorical and lots of scholars think it is, the idea of it is really powerful. It speaks to our fascination with lost civilizations and hidden knowledge. Like, somewhere out there, buried in the past or lost beneath the waves, are the keys to the universe's greatest secrets.
It's like a real-life Da Vinci Code, but instead of the Holy Grail, we're looking for the source code of all ancient wisdom. And Hall seems to suggest that serpent symbolism is one of those keys. He points out that there are feathered serpent deities in cultures all over the world, like Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, or even the ancient Egyptian god Wajid.
Right, and that connection across continents is a major part of what Hall calls perennial philosophy. This is the idea that essential truths have always existed across different cultures and throughout time, often hidden within myths and symbols.
So it's like a secret language that humanity has been speaking since the beginning of civilization.
Exactly. And one of the most compelling examples Hall gives of this is the theme of a god who dies and is resurrected that appears in mythologies all over the world. It's in ancient Egypt with Osiris, in Greek mythology with Dionysus, and of course in Christianity with Jesus.
That's a really good point. The imagery is so similar. If you didn't know any better, you might think they were talking about the same figure. But what does it mean? Why has this been such a powerful theme across different cultures and throughout history?
Well, that's a question that scholars and philosophers have been thinking about for centuries. Some believe it shows how deeply we understand life, death, and renewal, that cycle of existence that we see in the seasons, agriculture, and our own lives. Others see it as a symbolic representation of the journey of the soul, this process of spiritual death and rebirth that ultimately leads to enlightenment, to liberation.
So it's not just about gods literally dying, coming back to life. It's about something much, much deeper. It makes you wonder what other hidden truths are tucked away in these ancient myths and symbols. And even more intriguing, what's the role of all these secret societies in all this?
That's where things get really interesting. We're going from just speculating about lost civilizations to talking about the actual practices and beliefs of groups like the Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece, the Pythagorean Brotherhood, the Egyptian mystery schools, which are super mysterious, and then there are the Rosicrucians who are, well, completely shrouded in secrecy.
Okay, let's unpack this a little. These were groups that were often very secretive, right? So why did they even exist? What were they hoping to achieve?
You know, it seems like their goals weren't so different from what we're doing right now. They were searching for knowledge, for understanding, and a deeper connection to something bigger than themselves. They believed that through rituals and initiations, and by studying hidden wisdom, they could unlock something inside themselves and gain a deeper understanding of the universe.
And they used symbols and myths to protect and share that knowledge.
Exactly. Take the Eleusinian mysteries, for example. These rituals went on for centuries in ancient Greece, and they were totally shrouded in secrecy. There were serious consequences for anyone who revealed their secrets.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What were these rituals all about? What kind of wisdom were they looking for?
Well, the specifics of what happened in those rituals are still a mystery, partly because initiates were sworn to secrecy. But we know that they involved a symbolic journey, often described as a descent into the underworld and then a return to the light.
There's that death and resurrection theme again. Do we know what they hoped to achieve through these rituals? What were they looking for?
It seems like the Eleusinian mysteries were about more than just learning something new. Based on what we know, imagine going through something so profound that it changes how you see life and death. Like it reveals a whole hidden dimension of existence that we're not usually aware of.
Wow, so they were designed to create some kind of altered state of consciousness, like a direct experience of something beyond the material world, like a spiritual boot camp. But instead of your body, It's your perception that's being pushed to the limit.
Yeah, exactly. And this idea of transformation, of aligning yourself with this hidden cosmic order, that seems to be a common thread in many of these secret societies. Like, take the Pythagoreans. We mostly remember them for their work in math, but they didn't see numbers just as abstract concepts. They believed numbers were the language of the universe, the keys to understanding the hidden structure of reality.
So they thought that math could help you decode the very fabric of existence. Even today, that's a pretty radical idea.
Absolutely. And it gets even more interesting. Hall connects the Pythagoreans' fascination with the number 10, especially as it's represented in something called the Tetractys, to the 10 Sephiroth in the Kabbalah, which is a mystical system we'll get to a little bit later.
Okay, wait. Things are about to get really out there. We're going from ancient Greek mathematicians to Jewish mysticism. How does that even work?
That's what's so cool about all of this, uncovering the connections between traditions that seem totally different. Whether we're talking about the Pythagorean Tetractys or we're talking about the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, these are both systems that try to explain how the universe came from a single source that we can't really understand.
So even though they were separated by time and distance, it's like all these different cultures were developing their own unique ways of explaining the cosmos, of understanding how they fit into a larger reality, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Hall goes into some really fascinating examples. Like, he talks about the Sphinx and how it's not just a statue. He says it's a riddle. And the riddle represents the very mysteries that we're discussing, like a guardian of ancient wisdom standing at the threshold of knowledge.
Okay, well, I've always loved a good riddle. So what's the Sphinx's question? What mystery is it guarding?
Well, I guess that's up to us to figure out. Some people believe the Sphinx, with the human head and the lion's body, represents the union of intellect and instinct, bringing together our higher and lower natures. That idea also comes up in alchemy, this concept of the unification of opposites.
It's not about finding one right answer to a riddle. It's about exploring those fundamental questions about what it means to be human, right? Who are we? What are we doing here? Why are we here? What's our place in it all?
Exactly. And what I find even more interesting is how Hall connects the Sphinx to the human body. He says that just like the Sphinx protects ancient secrets, our own bodies hold hidden wisdom. Like we're each a microcosm that reflects the macrocosm of the entire universe.
It's like that idea, as above, so below. The smallest particle reflects the vastness of the cosmos.
Exactly. Hall says that the human body is like a living temple. With all its intricate systems and energy centers and symbolic correspondences, it's a sacred space where the divine spark exists within each of us.
Okay, now we're getting into some deep esoteric territory.
Sure.
How does this connect back to all the secret societies and hidden knowledge we've been discussing?
Remember how those societies were about unlocking hidden potential, about reaching higher levels of understanding? Hall seems to be suggesting that we don't need to go searching for this wisdom in old books or hidden temples. He's suggesting it's already within us, encoded in our very being.
So we're walking around with the keys to enlightenment inside us, but we need the right map, the right tools to decode it all.
Exactly. Hall says that many ancient traditions can help us to decode that language of the universe alchemy, the Kabbalah, the Tarot, even the myths that have been passed down for generations.
That's what I think is so fascinating about the secret teachings of all ages. It's like he's guiding us through this hidden museum of human wisdom. He points out the connections between things that seem totally different, helping us see patterns and connections we might never have noticed.
It really is like a giant jigsaw puzzle where every symbol, every myth, every ritual adds a layer of meaning to the bigger picture.
Speaking of puzzles, we've mentioned a few intriguing ideas that I think we should take a closer look at. For example, what about the symbolism of Hiram Abiff? He seems to be a key figure, especially with Freemasonry.
Yeah, Hiram Abiff is central to Masonic lore, and Hall sees his story as another powerful representation of that death and resurrection theme that keeps coming up. Like many of the symbols we've talked about, it's not really about the literal story, but about the deeper truth it represents.
Okay, so who was Hiram Abiff, and how does his story fit into this theme of death and resurrection?
So Hiram Abiff, he's this legendary figure, right? He was supposed to be the main architect of King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. The story, the way it's told in those Masonic rituals, is that he had all this secret knowledge about how to build the temple.
Okay.
And, well, because of that knowledge, he's targeted by these, well, assassins, basically. 3 of them.
Oh, no.
They kill him, hoping to get their hands on his secrets.
Wow, this is less ancient history, more like Dan Brown thriller. So did they actually get the secrets?
Well, that's where the story gets interesting. They don't manage to get all the knowledge from Hiram before he dies, and his body, well, it disappears.
Oh, wow.
Eventually, he's brought back to life, but symbolically, through rituals, his lost secrets, they're recovered, so the temple can finally be completed.
It's amazing how that story brings together secret knowledge, assassination, death,
Yeah.
resurrection. It's like the blueprint for an action movie.
Yeah, I know, right? And I think that's why Hall was so drawn to it. He saw that Hiram story, like all these ancient myths. It works on different levels. On the surface, it's exciting, a story of betrayal, redemption. But deeper down, it's really about truth, how it endures. Knowledge, once it's out there, it can't really be destroyed, even by death.
Yeah, I see that. It's like a metaphor for wisdom itself.
Yeah,
Even if it's lost, forgotten for a while, it'll always find a way to come back to be rediscovered.
that's it. And it brings us right back to what this whole deep dive has been about, We're surrounded by this hidden language, this language of symbols and myths and rituals. It speaks to something deep inside us, something we may not even realize.
It's like we've been given this ancient map, but we're only just starting to understand how to read it. It's a little intimidating, but also pretty exciting.
It is, definitely. But that's part of the journey, right? There's always something more to find, to uncover. The more you learn, the more you realize, well, how much is still out there?
It's like peeling an onion, layer after layer. But instead of tears, you get these amazing insights.
Exactly. It's that sense of wonder, that drive to keep learning that kept those ancient traditions alive for so long. And it's what still draws people to Hall's work today. He reminds us that wanting to find meaning, it's not some outdated idea, it's part of what makes us human.
It makes you wonder about symbols and myths we encounter every day in our own lives. I mean, could there be deeper meanings there too? Are we so busy with the surface of things that we miss the hidden messages right in front of us?
That's a really good question. It is a challenge to look beyond the obvious, to ask not just what something is, but why. Why do some stories stay with us? Why do certain symbols draw us in? What's our subconscious trying to say?
We have this amazing ability to tap into this collective wisdom of all of humanity, to understand that language of the universe, but it's on us to actually use it.
I like that. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. It's not just a book to read, it's like an invitation to start this journey of exploration, and it starts right here within ourselves.
This deep dive has been incredible, really. But I'll be honest, I have even more questions now. But maybe that's the whole point, to get curious, to want to keep digging, to see what's hidden beneath the surface.
Exactly. And you never know what you'll find. Maybe you'll stumble on a truth that changes how you see everything. Or maybe you'll just find a new appreciation for how people have searched for meaning throughout history.
It's a journey worth taking, that's for sure. So to everyone listening, if you're feeling that spark of curiosity, check out Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages and see what you discover.
Enjoy the journey.